Okay, um, I have been working on creating the different commands needed for modifying the root network, and right now I have the basic ones up running, and I'm working on the more, you could say, special ones, like where you're gonna merge stuff and split stuff and so on. Actually, the split one I have done already. Anyway, I come up with that we need like these 10 different commands to support the user, and I would like to go through these, and then I would like you to kind of you know um, validate if this is what is needed. Uh, um, Also, these commands are actually mapped to some events that are actually capturing what changes is done in the network. So the command does not have to be one-to-one to these events, and actually they are not like that right now. So what I'm saying is that we can change these commands, we can make them more UI friendly, in that we can, I mean, one command can do several things. For example, I have created this number two here. I have a command that adds a segment, but also at the same time add the node in the end, um, because I think it would be easier to kind of integrate with the UI, because this is also how the user will normally kind of expect it to work. However, it does not have to be like that. You could also separate it out, and I mean, there are many ways to do it. So anyway, uh, overall, the whole idea with this root network, the way that it's implemented underneath, is that it's implemented as a digraph or directed graph, which means we have nodes and we have links, and a node is always, sorry, a link is always a connection between two nodes. So one node can have many connections to many links or segments, and there's direction on it. So we have the from and to direction. In a graph world, it's called something else, but it's called incoming and outgoing or something like that. But it's the same thing. It's just underneath is actually a very simple graph, and the reason it's important that it's a graph is that a lot of the functionality we have built on top of this root network use graph kind of functions to do their work, like traversal and stuff like that. So, so that's why we want to have this graph underneath. So, so my idea is, or the idea is here that we kind of, these commands kind of reflect that idea that we always have nodes and segments. So you cannot just sit and draw, for example, segments without having any nodes. If we take the first command here, which is the split segment by node command, and the way it works is that you actually specify um, a new node. Inside this command, you will say, okay, I want a new node with this ID, and I want to have it. I want to use that node to split some existing segment. You also specify with that ID. So, and the system then will actually check that this node you specified, the position of this node is kind of near the segment. So there's a tolerance around 10 centimeters. If you are more away than that, it will come with an error. And this is because if you divide an existing segment, it's not, we don't really want to move it that much, because it could be something that's already created in real life that they want to kind of attach something to. So, so this command here will then create this new node, and then it will split this existing segment underneath, and it will um, create basically two new segments and connect it to this node, and make sure everything that runs through here is still related correctly to this new setup. Okay, so this one is quite important and actually very simple from the UI perspective, because you just specify coordinate and a segment ID, and you can also specify the attributes of this node if you want to. If you don't do it, it will just create a node with type unknown and no name. So okay, then number 2 here is a command to add a segment where you kind of start from an existing node and go somewhere. So the idea is that the user typical want to, for example, if they have created this node here up here in number 1, they will continue from that and create some route down. For example, it could be a side road, and then they begin to kind of draw, a line which represents a segment, and at some point they end it. And the idea is then you can call this add segment from node, which where you specify the from node ID that has to exist already, and then of course the geometry of the stuff they have drawn, and then again the node in the other end will be created automatically. If you put parameters telling the name of it and blah blah blah, it will do that, or otherwise you'll just create unknown node. So again, this is the idea is that we always make sure that we have these nodes, because that's important for our graph to work. And number 3 here is very simple, just add a node. So just add a single node, has no connection to it yet. So this is same, I just added one here. And then we have a command that way you're actually going to make a segment between 2 existing nodes. So here you just say a from node and a to node, and of course the geometry of the segment itself, and the parameters you can put on a segment, and then it will create this guy here. Then we have the remove segment. So again, if you remove a segment, the segment will be removed, but the node will still be there. So that's how I decided to do it. If that's a good idea or not, I don't know. Maybe you could say, okay, if I remove this, I actually also want to remove this, but it's not necessarily the case. So that's why I think it's best that we just move the segment. And 6 here, then we remove the node. Yeah, and there's a rule here that says that to be able to remove a node, we have to have removed the segment first. So if there's, and this is again because otherwise we will have segments that's missing a node. So this is the rule. So if the UI has to be kind of, you have to be able to kind of select a lot of stuff and press delete, you have to send the commands in the right order. You have to send first remove all the segments and then remove all the nodes afterwards. Otherwise the system will complain. Then we have the merge segment by removing node. I call it like this because it kind of the opposite of this over here. That's a split segment by node. And here again, you choose to say, okay, I want to merge two existing segments together. And the way you do that is actually just by specifying which node that is common for these two segments, and then they will be merged together. So this command only have one parameter, is a node actually. So here you just specify this node, and then these two will be merged together, and this one will be deleted. So it's shown here. Then you can move a node, and this is of course something they do quite a bit, I think. I don't know, but they click on a node and kind of move them around. And one feature that's really nice here and quite important is when they usually do something like that, we kind of move everything with it, so it's still a valid, also geographically valid graph. So if you, in this case, you're gonna move this guy to here, right, like this and this. So doing so, the system will not only change the geometry of this node, but underneath it will also change the geometry of the segments. And basically what you're gonna do is gonna move the last segment, the segment that's here, you're gonna change that vertex from each of the segments. So in the UI, when you use to do this, you can do the same, so they can see what happens, and then when you press OK or whatever, then the system will also do that underneath. Then after that, the user can maybe click on the things and modify the geometry, whatever. And this is number 9 here is I want to modify the segment geometry. And here the idea is that you can modify it, you can add new vertices, you can delete existing vertices, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're not allowed to change the from and to end. They are there always. So if you want to change them, you have to use the move node. And finally, the last one we need is to disconnect a segment n. So in this case here, we have this guy here is connected to this node, and the idea is I want this guy, this segment, I want actually to detach it or disconnect it from this node. So the command works like you choose which segment it is, and you want to also choose which end it is from or to end. So you have to know which end it is you want to disconnect. How you want to do that in the UI, I don't know. If you click this guy and then first and mark this guy and then drag this or click this and say disconnect or something, I don't know. But the idea is that when you do this command, you tell it, okay, I want to disconnect it with end, and then you give it a coordinate here, which is the new node that it will be connected to after it has been disconnecting from the existing node. So you can imagine if the user kind of click there and drag it out and click, for example, here, then it will look like this afterwards, right? And it will create a new node. So this is kind of the basic commands I think will cover the stuff the user need to do with the root network. So we just have to try to implement them in the UI and also in the backend. I'm almost finished with them in the backend, but I want you to kind of look at this and say, okay, this is fine, this is, or maybe say, could we do it a little different like this and this? Then I can modify it. Yeah, that's it.